Hello, listeners. It's Gunter here with some exciting news. We're on the lookout for sponsors to join us on our incredible journey with Inspired Change with Gunter. If your organization cares deeply about meaningful conversations around masculinity, self development, and mental health, we'd love to partner with you. Our podcast has a wonderful, dedicated audience committed to personal growth and positive social change. By sponsoring Inspired Change with Gunter, your brand will connect with listeners who truly value thoughtful discussion and support initiatives that promote real transformation. We're incredibly proud to be ranked number one in Australia and number 5 in the USA on FeedSpot's top men's mental health podcasts to listen and follow in 2024. With an average of 50,000 downloads per episode each week from listeners all around the world, our reach is significant and growing. For more information on how to become a sponsor, please reach out to Miranda Spiegner Sapon, our showrunner and executive producer at miranda@noirtainment.com. We'd love to explore how we can work together to inspire change. Now, thank you for your continued support, and let's keep inspiring change together.
You're listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspired Change with Gunter. I'm your host, and today we're going to take a deeper dive into the topic that I've spoke about in the last podcast, but I'm going to focus on one of those particular areas, and that's about resilience. Now, resilience is often misunderstood, misrepresented, and a lot of times even exploited. As you may remember, I sort of indicated that resilience these days has become a buzzword, especially when it comes to masculinity. It's often thrown around as if it was a trait that only the toughest among us possess, or worse, something that's inherently lacking in men today. But what is resilience really? What does it take to be truly resilient? And what does it mean to build resilience from a place of health, connection, and psychological strength? In today's episode, we're going to break down what resilience is and, just as importantly, what it isn't. We'll explore the variables that create a resilient human being, starting with the basics, some healthy attachment, bonding, and the psychological characteristics that form the foundation of true health, physical and mental health. I'll also be drawing on some key research and some key theories to support these ideas, okay? So it's not just my own imaginations and meanderings, but it comes from science. So let's get started. Okay, what are some common misconceptions about resilience? Resilience is often portrayed as the ability to bounce back from adversity. You hear phrases like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, as if simply enduring hardship makes you resilient. Now, don't get me wrong, I do use that phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I want to extrapolate on the difference between the way that I use it and the way that it's often thrown about. And so my argument is that some of the misconceptions, although coming from the right idea, are in fact a shallow understanding of the issue of the word resilience. Resilience isn't just about toughness. In fact, it's not really about toughness. And it's certainly not about never feeling pain, fear, or doubt. The reality is that resilience is the capacity to adapt and grow in the face of challenges. It is both a philosophical, cognitive position that I take and an emotional regulation that I apply. It's about how we process difficulties and how we integrate those experiences and ultimately how we use them to evolve as a person. Resilience is dynamic. It's not a fixed trait or a simple grit your teeth and bear it anyway attitude. It's the result of ongoing development shaped by our relationships, our environment, and our inner world. So, this is really important. Let's consider this as we go along. Now, here's what resilience isn't it isn't about the kind of stoicism that's often glorified in traditional masculinity. The popular notion of stoicism, where men are expected to suppress their emotions, endure hardship in silence, and never show vulnerability, is actually counterproductive to true resilience. In stoicism, we do accept our emotions, whether good, bad, or indifferent. So, this stereotypical version of stoicism, equates with emotional suppression with strength, which is a dangerous and limiting mindset. Fortunately, there's another way to understand Stoicism, one that aligns with a healthier, more robust worldview. Stoicism, in its original philosophical sense, is about recognizing what's within your control and what isn't. It is about accepting life's challenges without being overwhelmed by them. True Stoicism doesn't deny emotion, it encourages to experience our emotions fully while choosing not to be ruled by them. It's about cultivating inner peace through self awareness, emotional regulation, and a balanced perspective on life. Now, as you can see, this is a much healthier interpretation of Stoicism, and it supports resilience by promoting flexibility, emotional intelligence, and a deep understanding of one's own values, attitude, beliefs, and purposes and meanings that we attribute to life. So, if resilience isn't just about brute strength or cognitive muscle or suppressing emotion, what is it built on? So, let's start with the most fundamental element: healthy attachment and bonding. You might think that this might be a strange place to start when talking about resilience, but hear me out. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and later on expanded on by Mary Ainsworth, tells us that our ability to form secure relationships in early life profoundly influences our capacity for resilience later on. When we experience consistent responsive caregiving as an infant and as a child, we develop what's called a secure attachment. This secure base allows us to explore the world with confidence, knowing that we can go back to safety when we need it. And it's from that foundation of trust and safety that resilience begins to grow. And in this context, I often work with the concept of my attachment with myself. Now, healthy attachment isn't just about early childhood. As adults, our relationships continue to shape our resilience. Strong bonds with partners, friends, and community provide emotional support, validation, and the encouragement needed to face life's challenges. These connections remind us that we're not alone, reinforcing our ability to bounce back from adversity. Now, in my practice, I deal with lots of boys and men who form relationships wherein their partner is frequently critical and often denigrating of them. Now, that doesn't help you in your relationship with yourself. Now, if you've got a healthy attachment to yourself, at some point you're going to go, well, unless this person changes after some respectful but persistent feedback, then one of the things that I might need to consider is to leave that person and not to continue to subject myself to that sort of criticism, disrespect, contempt, and move on. So, what are some of the psychological characteristics of a resilient human being? What other stuff beyond attachment and bonding is going to help us build and maintain our resilience? So, as always, one of the things that I talk about is self awareness. Resilient individuals have a deep understanding of themselves. They're aware of their strengths, their weaknesses, triggers, and patterns of thought, beliefs, attitudes. This self awareness allows them to navigate challenges with greater clarity and less reactivity. Now, remember, one of the things I talk about is let's be responsive, not reactive. The second thing that arises in this context is that of emotional regulation. It's not about never feeling strong emotions, it's about managing them effectively. Resilient people can experience a full range of emotions without being overwhelmed or sometimes underwhelmed. That's another topic. They know how to process feelings of anger, sadness, fear, and joy in a healthy way. This emotional regulation is key to maintaining stability in the face of adversity. Another characteristic essentially is a reasonable level of optimism, or alternatively, actually a reasonable level of pessimism. In extremes, either one of them are a problem. So let me put it this way: resilience isn't blind positivity, but it does involve a realistic form of optimism. And I need to be flexible enough to go, okay, in this instance, it's probably more reasonable if I'm pessimistic rather than optimistic. The key in this is that resilient individuals believe that they can influence their circumstances and that positive outcomes are possible, even when faced with difficulties. This mindset encourages perseverance and problem solving, right? Stickability. One of the problems that we face in our culture today, we frequently have the issue of immediate needs gratification and low frustration tolerance. Okay, so they're not going to help with resilience. The fourth one is about adaptability. Fundamentally, life is full of unexpected twists and turns. Resilient people are adaptable. So we go from flexibility to adaptability. They can shift their perspective and approach when needed. They see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than threats to their stability. And the fifth element that I think is really clearly important is a sense of purpose. Now, here's the important bit: life doesn't come along and hand you a little package called "This is your purpose, George." Rather, you're going to need to work that one out for yourself. So you need to have and develop a clear sense of purpose that provides you with direction and motivation. It is not going to come from the outside. This anchors us when times are tough. For resilient individuals, their sense of purpose gives meaning to the struggle. Why do Olympians get up at ungodly hours, go to the track, experience pain, physical and psychological pain, setbacks, because they have a purpose and they keep motivating themselves. So all of this gives meaning to their struggles, which transforms adversity into a catalyst for growth. Now, in addition to the psychological, there's also the issue of social and cultural dimensions in resilience. So we've got to understand that resilience doesn't develop in isolation, as I've already indicated that in the previous podcast. And I want to go into it a little bit more. In our society, especially for men, resilience is often equated with self reliance, the lone wolf. That lone wolf mentality is, in fact, glorified, but it's a really seriously dangerous myth. True resilience is supported by a network of relationships, by connection, not isolation. One of the things that I still struggle with men about is that we're really reluctant to put our hand up and ask for help. So think about it. When you're going through a tough time, what really makes the difference? It's often the people who stand by you, who listen, who offer support, especially without judgment. And this is why building a resilient life involves cultivating healthy relationships and communities. It means rejecting the toxic narrative that tells men that they must handle everything on their own. Furthermore, cultural factors like socioeconomic status, access to resources, and social support networks all play significant roles in resilience. We just can't ignore these dimensions if we're serious about building a resilient society or individuals who are resilient within the context of society. So let's get down to the pointy end. What can you do as an individual to cultivate resilience in your life? Well, here's a bit of a roadmap. Go out, build secure attachments. The first serious level of attachment is your relationship with yourself. And this is the point where I go, if you're not comfortable and feeling safe and secure in your relationship with yourself, get therapy. Invest in your relationship, firstly with yourself, and then begin to invest in other relationships, you with somebody else, with others. Prioritize connection, communication, and then trust. Surround yourself with people who uplift and support you. Don't hang around people who are going to take the piss out of you and, or are highly sarcastic or, treat you with a certain level of contempt. Leave them. And that includes people in your relationships, right? If you cannot get that level of commitment to respect, to love, to care, to nurture from your partner, your intimate, supposedly, partner, then firstly, talk to them. Secondly, go into couples therapy. And if that doesn't work, by that stage, you've tried everything else. You have the right to leave. Second point, develop self awareness. Take time for reflection, journal, meditate. And as I said, therapy is part of that. For most of us men, I don't believe it's ever a waste of time to go into therapy or to pursue personal growth. It's healthy. Would you think twice about going to the gym if you needed to get fit? Practice emotional regulation. Learn techniques for managing stress and emotions. You might need to do some deep breathing, some somatics. You need to train or allow your mind to become quiet so that you can be mindful. You may need to teach your body to release tension through progressive muscle relaxation. More often than not, know when to seek help. As I said, one of the other factors is foster optimism, or at least, at the very last, healthy pessimism. Through that process, right, we begin to challenge negative thought patterns. Albert Ellis, a psychotherapist who began his work in the 1950s and who I had the good fortune to work with in a masterclass, he talked about irrational beliefs. And lo and behold, most of us have some irrational beliefs that hold us back, whether it's the belief that you're not good enough or that you should meet everybody else's needs first before your own, whatever it is. Go out there, uncover them, and challenge them. You need to be able to begin to focus on what you can control and strive to maintain a balanced perspective. Stay adaptable, because that's going to give you the longer, it's like a marathon runner. It's going to give you the stickability for the long haul. You know, change is a natural part of life. Be open to new ideas and ways of doing things. Flexibility is a component of resistance, which leads to adaptability. Clarify your purpose. Sit down, get a piece of paper, and begin to throw stuff on it. One really good exercise for that is ikigai. It's a Japanese process which I highly recommend. If you haven't got it, Google it. Lots of stuff comes up. It's spelt Ikigai. Ikigai. And then, lastly but not least, engage with your community. Strengthen your social ties. Be active in your community. Get out there. Whether it's a surf club, whether it's a bowling club, whether it's the soup kitchen, helping to feed the homeless, do something of value within your community. You could be joining a group, playing ukulele, a walking group. Get out there. Do it. As you get older, you will be grateful for it. So to wrap up, let's remember that resilience isn't about being invulnerable. It's about being adaptable, connected, and purpose-driven. It's about developing the inner and outer resources that allow us to navigate life's challenges with grace and strength. As a surfer, it's the capacity to be on a longboard and walk the plank, hang 5, hang 10, and walk back again to the tail and bring the board around. It is with grace, it is with style. Now, keep in mind, like surfing, every now and then you're going to take a dive into the ocean. Enjoy the dive. Don't see it as something bad, see it as a learning process. So resilience, therefore, is built on our healthy relationships, our self-awareness, and the courage to embrace both our strengths and vulnerabilities. So thanks again for joining me today on Inspired Change. Let's continue to challenge outdated narratives and build a more resilient, compassionate, and connected world together. Until next time, stay healthy, stay connected, and keep inspiring change. This is me signing off. Love to hear from you. And if you're interested, please check out my work on www.gunterswoboda.com or www.goodmengreat.com.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit goodmengreat.com. For inquiries regarding broadcast topics or appearing on the show, email Miranda at noirtainment.com. That's Miranda at NOIRTAINment.com.